Always more time for that, Wolf. You know, 1000th game here for Faker, and technically the first game for Smash in the LCK regular season. And immediately we're going to start off with the two most broken AD carries that get banned away pretty much every game. Varus and Kalista. Taliyah also taken off the board. A very strong BDD champion. The other one would be Azir, but that's also banned, so giving potential hope for Faker to continue to catch up to Azir. Yeah,
and for him to potentially play another unique champion on game 1000. Final ban here for T1 will be the Jace. Take that away from casting. BDD's Taliyah, I think, is a wise ban. He has been very good at it, and he has been so important for KT Rolster. And they take the Azir away, so both of those very commonly played mid lane champions in game 1 are gone. Gwen taken away from Doran, and this means that Vi is left up, and Owner will snap that one in. Pretty simple start here to our telecom war in terms of the bans. Yeah. Very basic pick.
I feel like if you don't ban Gwen, Doran plays Gwen, but then you have Rumble. So I feel like they had a good answer to it, but they just did not want to see Gwen by any means. And that unfortunately leaves the Vi available for T1, whereas you could have potentially gone like, you know, the Rumble and the Vi.
Yeah.
If you leave the Gwen available. I don't know if T1 would have fallen into that trap, but they're still going to take the Rumble.
That's what I would have expected, to be honest. Yeah, that they would play Rumble Vi into the Gwen and feel very good about it. Strong combo. Podek will deny Smash from what is already a pretty iconic pick for him in the Ezreal. No Varus available, no Kalista. Kai'Sa, however, one of those picks, and people are saying Smash Pilot's better than Guma. We've seen a lot from him. Is likely to be the lock-in here in response. Works well with the Vi in terms of the dive setup this comp is already starting to come with. We knew it was going to be Ahri. I mean, it's one of the most broken builds right now.
What if he uses his skin?
He might. A 1000th game?
1000th game, you know, this kind of has that vibe, you know?
I feel like Faker.
I don't think he will, but
Faker has a skin for Ahri, right? The famous one.
Yeah.
But his skin for Ahri is no skin, and I think he'll be using that one. But we'll see. We'll see, Valdez.
Yeah.
Today could be the day, as Xin Zhao will get locked in. So it's going to give you a little bit more frontline for your Ezreal, for your Rumble here. And in general, pretty robust composition on both sides here. A little bit more of a theme, though, I would say, for T1s.
Yeah, they definitely do. I think the Xin Zhao just generally strong, but also good at disengaging and creating a lot of space. You know, like if they try to dive a backline, you got Xin Zhao in the right spot. He can potentially save your carries. He can also go forward, obviously. And Besta going to be banned away here. KT already have their top laner, so Doran going to be targeted just a bit in terms of what he can play into the Rumble. The Silas also banned away from BDD, who hasn't picked his champion yet.
Will be another ban to go over potentially to Doran here in this spot, unless they want to go for a support ban instead towards Keria, which would just give us a hint of what Podek is likely looking to try to play here. Okay, will be the Rakan.
Yeah, Rakan just
sorry,
get banned.
Peter, excuse me.
Yeah, Podek and Peter. I mean, there's the alliteration. It's kind of difficult to distinguish between the two. But yeah, Rakan does get banned away, so only that Mbessa target towards Doran.
The Rakan ban doesn't really give me too many hints as to what they want to pair with this Ezreal just yet.
The Poppy ban is 100%.
Yeah, that's
what you got to go for.
Yeah, that seems pretty obvious here. Could just play Leona, but it doesn't necessarily work very well with their comp. It's very strong with Ezreal, and we saw that work out very well for Kellen in the lane in our previous series, but for an Alistar here potentially instead, which Peter has had some, you know, aggressive plays on already here in LCK 2025. Keria going to give a little bit of a hover on that Pantheon as we wait to see what that top lane matchup is going to be. Interesting to maybe potentially give Doran the Galio counter pick here to the Rumble. We've seen this one before.
Yeah, we've also seen it banned when the Red Side team had Rumble. Hololive Esports did that just yesterday against DNF.
The Nico is something that Keria has a lot of experience playing in the past and gives you a ton of engage opportunities. Works extremely well with the Galio too. But it looks like he's going back to that Pantheon.
It's great in lane as well against the Alistar, but it's not quite Callista with the Nico, so thinking about some more
Gragas.
straightforward engage.
This is leaving the Galio support opportunity there as well, potentially. Quite rare to see, but so is the Gragas these days in the support position.
Could happen, you know.
As Corki will be, it looks like what BDD wants to lock here in the mid lane to face off against this Ahri. Can be a very volatile matchup, as we mentioned in the previous series. We did see it. BDD confident he can get it done against one of Faker's best and one of the strongest mid lane champions right now in the meta with the build that she has, her synergy with Vi, which is so rarely given over. You know, we saw Viego last series as well. You know, you have a few different champions you can play Ahri with, but the Vi is the simplest one. Will be that Gragas support as expected. Galio being the counter pick for the Rumble. In terms of setup for equalizers, it's pretty tricky here, but when you consider T1 are going to be following up on dive, you can kind of use the equalizer either defensively or on those targets who are trying to dive through it to actually damage them quite heavily. But I do think that T1 have a more meta, simpler to execute, extremely S tier in terms of champions locked in draft, with the exception of the Gragas. I do feel like Galio is one of those rare but extremely strong counter picks for the Rumble as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think T1 for sure won this draft. I think KT were doing a little bit of scrambling where they're like, oh, wait, they banned Talia. Oh, they also banned Poppy. They have a amazing dive comp. What are we going to play? And they got the Xin Zhao and the Alistar, which are good choices, and the Ezreal as well. To give them credit, I think there are some picks on the side of KT that can deal with this, but you called it early on. I think it's just a more comprehensive, straightforward draft from T1. It has a identity. You know what it's going to do. It's going to dive that back line. We'll see just how well they can do it as we're getting ready for the first game of the Telecom War right now. Alrighty, game number one. All eyes on that bottom lane for sure. Faker is not using his skin, which is not a big surprise. I thought, you know, I gave it like a little, maybe 1-2% chance that maybe he would throw it in there. Just a very special occasion for the 1000th game, but we all know that Faker's not like that. He's had other very special moments and also hasn't used skins, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's in one way it almost feels like his skin is like his merch, you know? Like, he's not necessarily wearing his own merch, but like, if you want to support him, you can get that, or you could have. And now Faker is just, he is wearing his skin, which is like, I'm so iconic that the normal Ahri skin is associated with me. So, looking forward to seeing how this matchup shakes up. Paddock did go cleanse, which is what you'd expect, but it isn't going to be a great combat spell for him in lane. And he knows that there's so much CC in this composition for T1, and it all layers well with the initial setup for the Vi. Vi is so good into Ezreal and Corki because while they both have mobility, once Vi channels that ultimate, you're going to land on them, you're going to lock them down no matter what.
Yeah. Saw Keria hovering the Nico. Thought maybe he would like to play it into the Alistar, but you know, if you start channeling that Nico ult and Peter's quick on the trigger, you can just headbutt it away. It feels like, you know, there's a lot of potential counterplay for that Nico, and the Gragas with the cask is just going to add a lot of extra chaos into the backlines, into the team fights. You know, potentially knocking away the Alistar, knocking away the Xin Zhao, so they cannot create that space. You know, we know that Keria can play pretty much anything, so I'm excited to see his Gragas as well.
Yeah, he's just a player who has, he has so many different skill sets as a support. You know, he will play marksman, he will play enchanters, and he will just play the unusual. And sometimes when you see Keria pick a champ, you're not even 100% sure it's the right angle for it.
Yeah.
He will pull it off, with the exception of that one Ezreal support game that Keria fans play don't bring up too often. But besides that, in recent memory, hasn't really missed the mark.
I remember a Lee Sin game.
Yeah.
Happens. He's played all sorts of stuff. But today it's just good old Graggy. And so far, the lane is going pretty well for them. It does look like T1's bottom lane has the push. Excited to see how Padak deals with all this pressure himself. Coming back into the LCK. It must be very difficult mentally to, you know, bounce back and forth between the leagues. It feels like you're on the cusp of being a main starter all the time, and then you just kind of get knocked down.
Imagine, you know, all the scrims and all the training that you do with the Challenger squad, how much synergy you've built up there, you're trying to continue to build up with so many roster shuffles and changes where Peter's taken away from you. Okay, you're back with him now. And then just jumping in late and to scrims, and BDD is like, we don't do like that here, by the way. You know, what you're doing, like, you need to do this our way, for example. Or Cuz is like, you know, you might get that kind of attention for your jungler and challengers, but like, I play through BDD here, by the way. So don't expect too much help. I'm not saying that type of thing happens, because that's not really how scrims and comps work, but Keria.
Oh, wow. Very nice headbutt reaction from Peter, by the way. That could have gone pretty dangerous. Keria had the angle. But at the end of the day, it's just him down a flash, no hex flash as well. So now you're just kind of a sitting duck on the Gragas. Although he's not a duck.
No, not quite. But I feel like if Keria were a duck, he would not be an ugly duckling.
That's true. We don't have any duck champions, do we? There isn't any obvious one that I'm missing out. Like, we have bird champions, obviously.
Yeah. We have a pod duck.
That's true. He's playing against Padak.
Maybe that's where sitting duck came to your mind.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
Subconsciously. As Smash is really being put under the magnifying glass here in this laning phase, but Keria being down flash in this lane. The counter pick Kai'Sa hasn't been able to generate any advantages here, but it's not in lane really where Kai'Sa ends up being the big counter to Ezreal. It's just getting on top of him later on in team fights because of her burst. And her ability to just follow him with killer instinct, even if he tries to get away, can be deadly. So it's been a pretty successful counter pick. Very common counter pick in the LCK.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, current LCK has a lot of just passivity early on.
Yeah.
We saw that change a little bit in our first series. I don't think that's quite the norm that we're going to see in the LCK. With a lot of trades on objectives and crazy skirmishes early on.
So, faster swap here for Padak and Peter. See a teleport from Doran, and then he instantly walks up to mid after clearing the wave. So he teleports down, clears, and now can be a relevant factor with his ultimate, actually, in this fight. Potentially, T1 are sticking it.
Yeah, I mean, this is 5v4 if KT want to take the fight. So I don't think we want to take the fight by any means.
Really cool play, though, from T1.
Clear up the Fnatic sign did Smash. Little shout out to his old brother Reckless.
Yeah, he's done that a few times. I'd love to see some Reckless enjoyers.
Oh!
Close.
That was pretty close. Nice charm there from Faker. They're not going to go in on it. I think T1 have a pretty clear call here, which is we're going to get all the grubs. And Doran, you know, he might have to drop some CS, but he's still 10 CS ahead.
Yeah,
so
he
who cares?
only dropped like half of that wave, it looked like, too.
Yeah.
So this ended up being, you know, a tempo play from KT. I don't want to say it backfired, but it was just a really good answer from T1. They put Padak Peter up there, wanted to get grub control, but were unable to do so. And it's overheated.
I mean, he keeps going in very close to Justice Punch range. And, I mean, Doran just has, you know, little MR cloak for now, but he's still able to take good trades just with his base ability against the Rumble with his magic shield and stuff like that. And here comes Faker, thinking about it, reconsidering. Moving back to the mid lane.
Grabbing some mana. Speeding up with the Foxfire. Head over. Well, it's, you know, a quiet game, but there was some macro moves made. T1 currently 3 grubs to 0, though, off of the Doran TP rotation. He wasn't there, but the fact that he could have been really deterred KT from fighting. Only one small lead for BDD, which is, I feel like I've said that every KT game I've watched this entire year. But that's really it. I mean, it's 11 CS his advantage. Otherwise, small advantage generated across the board here for T1. guess with the exception of the bottom 80 carry.
If you've ever watched Faker's first-person view, he's just zooming all over the map. He's looking at every single lane. He wants to know exactly what's going on. Perhaps dropping some CS because of that. And Corky, one of the better CSers in the game. But yeah, just a pretty natural lead, and all credit over to BDD for creating that. Took some good early trades as well up against Faker.
Yeah, even though it's his 1,000th game, and I did some hard glazing earlier. His early laning phases have not been very impressive thus far this tournament, but has had some amazing team fights and some great back row reads. And this kind of gold lead will matter less and less as the game goes on. For BD, that is to say. As a bit of a supportal combat situation again here.
These supports actually do a bit of damage. Owner is here, but that would be not a good idea. We've seen Koshik attempt that angle where the guy just flashes under the turret and the Vi just dies. In this case, it would be a little bit different because you've got a Kaisa potentially to join, but...
If Podok was further out, then there was definitely a potential angle there, but now they're just going to kind of try to zone him off of farm here and grab some plate gold. With an Alistar, there might have been a world where he could have actually stuck it under turret there and said, come at me, but just not going to risk it. But as a result, there's going to be a lot of lost farm here, and lost experience as well.
Well, he's just flashed on in, and flash. There it is from Carry. Amazing engage, and they just did not respect that. They had a ward. They saw that Owner was still there, and that T1 were still looking, but no respect shown from Peter, not able to flash and react on time.
And the irony is that out there, there's no turret to protect you. Didn't stay under the turret to farm, and now Owner over here with ult.
There's no charm, but they might just have enough damage. Yes, they absolutely do. Owner didn't have to use his ult top, so he just comes to mid, takes down BDD.
Now the lead here in the bottom lane has ballooned quite substantially with all that lost farm, with a kill going over to Smash as well. 800 gold up. And here you're away from the farm, right? But you're too far away from the turret, trying to sweep these wards out.
Was he like one ward away from level 6 or something? Because I feel like that would be the only excuse I can give to Peter.
I think that might have been the case. I'm not actually 100% sure, but we'll get a... No, he won't.
No, I don't think so. Oh, Smash is just ganking bot. Casting is 100% dead. Like 1,000% dead, maybe. Really, the question is who's going to get the kill, and it will be Smash eventually here as he gets it. Does drop 3 CS. I think he's fine with that. Meanwhile, KT are going to take the grubs in the top lane, but the gigantic gold lead, at least for this point in the game, 2,000 gold already, does go over to T1.
Yeah, and it's BDD stripe. That's all you got.
And it's a tiny stripe.
Yeah, it's 135.
It's like a speck. It might even be a dot.
It might be a dot.
It's like the beginning of the line, but it's not really.
And it's fading as Faker picks up
30
plate
gold.
Yeah.
That dot is struggling.
Yeah, that dot is pinhead-sized at the moment. As, in this lane matchup here where casting returns, it's hard to actually get kill pressure on a Galio. And as you can see, Doran is just like, okay, if you want to fight me, we'll go.
You're just never going to kill him. And guess who's here?
Yeah, and he just TP'd back in. And now he's pushed out and maybe dead.
Casting has flash. There's no ult here for Owner. But maybe he just runs under turret. But the burst is coming through, and that was incredibly close. Casting, credit to him. He doesn't flash. He keeps his cool. But it's still not a good situation.
And he can't clear the whole wave. Doran will get a plate at least. As over here, Peter looking for something.
Yeah. And carry it every single time Peter tries to go in. He just puts his belly on him, The Faker misses the charm, so nothing going to happen there. Owner did have his ult, but they don't have vision of that brush, so not going to push the issue.
Owner here helping to clear out some of that vision that KT set up, but there's just no real angle in anymore here. There's a nice try by KT to try to potentially find a cross map, but they just don't have the setup for it. These two item spiking champions are not the best at following up on a lone Alistar in the jungle. unfortunately for them. And the lead that T1 have generated already is so huge at 13 minutes. I mean, 2,000 gold lead, if you're talking about it at 25 or 30 minutes in, you're like, well, this still feels like it's a decent chance for KT. It may get bigger and bigger as we move into some of these objective fights. You know, if KT fight over this Chemtech Dragon, for example, and end up losing out, this Kai'Sa is just going to be too big to fail. The Ahri actually not going for Rod of Ages, by the way. Quite rare to see the Malignants.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think every single Ahri has gone for the Rod of Ages build up until this point. So Faker, he is doing something special. I'm just not sure it's the right thing, as the ult is going to go in on a Padak, and there's the follow-up. It's as easy as that. You press your R, and even Israel can't do anything, as Peter also is going to die. Smash now 3-0, Owner 2-0-2.
And that's the kind of counter to Ezreal moment that I was talking about earlier, where you killer instinct and there's just no getting away. It's not about, like, you know, the Kai'Sa versus Ezreal level 3 in the 2v2. It's about moments like this that Smash creates with some help from his friends. And this should be the turret going over here. They already have Feats of Warfare, so this will be Feats of Strength as it falls. T1, I feel like they couldn't be more ahead. And the only thing they're missing is that one dragon. And
the 3 grubs, don't forget.
Oh, true. That's
KT got the consolation 3 grubs as their team was dying. Don't forget that, Wolf.
You're right. Sorry, my bad. I'm out here glazing good. Caught me glazing.
Can't help it.
You didn't get nothing.
Smash goes in first. Owner is here. And that's what I was talking about with, you know, the Corki and the Ezreal, is that Vi doesn't care about your mobility. She just follows you. Faker may...
He's got Flash and one more Spirit Rush, and he also has Charm. He's going to try to hold on to the Flash. It's going to bite him in the butt as Peter does follow Flash, and he just dies. Meanwhile, T1 up in the top lane are just bullying casting once again. They're doing a great job of making the rookie's life really difficult, as this guy is not getting out alive once again. It'll be 0-2. Meanwhile, they're taking the mid turret. You know, I don't think that Faker really did that on purpose, but he's still able to have his team get a lot of wins elsewhere on the map.
It's just it's a Faker trait, right? If Faker dies somewhere, T1 usually gets something on the other side, in most cases, especially when you're 3,000 gold ahead. You know, it's a lot easier to make that thing happen on the other side. And the game state that we have right now, Faker is caught, sure, but Doran gets the whole turret, delays, or rather deletes some minions by delaying the take on the turret as he does so. And they have mid prio because it's Kai'Sa into Ezreal, so they really just have control everywhere. It's a 2,000 gold lead for Smash, and Keria lurking, and he leaves.
Yeah, he's lurking. I think Cuz spotted him with the scanner, or just with his face. Trying to engage now onto Keria. He does have his Flash. He's just going to body slam over the wall instead. And the ever-looming threat of Smash's incredibly fed Kai'Sa. Even in a 3v4 situation, I think T1 would have a decent chance at this point in time.
Really feel, you know, how scared KT are to even chase down that Gragas, because they know that there is going to be a fall.
Well, yeah, they were scared to chase the Gragas, but they're not scared to try to force this Rift Herald.
Faker having TP.
Yeah, I think this is a mistake. The Ezreal is just so incredibly dead. There's just no play in the game for Padak. He showed up to the LCK. He's like, I'm ready to play. And T1 said no. Because Peter's going to die too. BDD is teleporting away from the fight. So he's also losing his teleport to save his life. And yeah, I mean, they got the Rift Herald, I guess. So that's it.
True. Casting's got it. Sends inventory. My favorite part of this is watch Smash, where like he's like, oh, I miscalculated. I thought I could kill him without ult. He's like, oh, I guess ult.
He's like, oh, fine. Yeah.
I mean, at least they do pick up the eye as well, because they're on the cusp of not even being able to get that. So there's, like you said, there's that one consolation prize. They got the consolation grubs. They got the consolation herald. Look at the health of the turrets in mid and top lane, though. Best case scenario, that herald might be used for some tempo on an upcoming dragon, but I just don't see any world where it's going to be threatening an actual turret. And unfortunately, the fact that the top laner holds it means that it's in kind of an awkward spot because he's going to be in sides. Won't be able to drop it mid like you would normally want to without physically going there. So That's just an unfortunate circumstance here that KT find themselves in with that really nice team fight there. But like you were saying, the question really is, before your 2-item spikes on your 2-item spiking champions that you have 2 of with the exact same items, with T1 having a lot of prio there, why force?
Yeah, they did not have any business playing around that Rift Herald, I'll tell you that. Keria down a flash, down a body slam. Faker here to help out as well. I think Keria probably would have gotten out anyway, but, you know, he's a supportive older brother. Gonna land the charm this time. And, I mean, we knew that T1 were favored coming into this one, but man, I said it earlier on, they're really catching KT at a bad time. Like, KT are changing up their roster in many different ways. Peter came in at the beginning, Casting came in halfway, so did Padak now. And T1, they're part of our top 4 at the very worst, but you said it, like, probably top 2. And our top of the LCK is incredibly strong, world-class. Probably one of those teams will win Worlds. They are the favorites right now. We don't know which one it'll be. Maybe it'll be the one that sneaks through the qualifier again, as seems to be the
that's the new trend.
The new trend of the LCK. But one of them probably will. And T1's in that class. KT right now are not. So it is quite one-sided as in goes owner. He's got the Galio follow-up. It's not the cleanest together engage, but the taunt is going to land here onto Rumble. Casting just dies again. And the follow-up is there. They're not going to overcommit into the jungle, but they're certainly going to make their presence made after getting that kill. Nice little cast into the wall, going to force Peter into a rough spot. And now with the charm follow-up, nicely done by Faker. That means that is another kill on the board.
Anytime 2021 to 2024, T1 be doing Baron on spawn here. But now it's 2025. It doesn't spawn at 20 minutes anymore, so they won't be doing that. But you know,
Padak run.
7,000 gold the advantage right now at 20 minutes. Faker has to flash.
Oh, well, it's actually KT who are getting the better of this trade. Nicely done. As Smash goes in, still going to get the kill on a Cuz. Cleanly done from the young 80 carry.
And, you know, we talked about it in Kespa Cup a lot of Smash's hyper-aggressive spotting, blood in the water, these killer instinct moments. I mean, you know, I'm not intentionally trying to say it because he's playing Kaisa, but like, he has that killer instinct, right? He sees these moments, he sees these angles, and that's something that I think is quite unique to him. And, you know, comparatively to Guma's more safe and incredibly consistent playstyle, he just keeps finding these moments. And, you know, we won't have the replay of him getting that one because we got to go back to live where Padak is dead. But he's the type of player who, you know, that Ezreal play he made in LCK Cup, not in Kespa Cup.
Yeah, when you said Kespa Cup, I'm like, I don't think he played in Kespa.
No, he did not. But that kind of play, we've seen him do so many times. He just is so good at finding these angles and just taking people's heads off. I mean, he's massively fed in this game, so it's not as impressive as some of the stuff we've seen from him, but I just got to shout it out because he finds his EDD is dying a slow and painful death.
I mean, he might get Faker here. Nicely done. Gonna take him down. Faker wanted the kill. He gets punished for it. So he's not too happy about that.
But it's the Faker death into Otacon, you know?
I mean, technically KT are 4v3 here, but they're not on the objective. And certainly now T1 will take the fight 3v4 as they have the Otacon buff. The incredible amount of damage that Owner is doing in the backline. That's before Smash even shows up. Padak doing his best, but his best is certainly not enough. Not at this point in the game. Triple kill for Smash, who is now 9-0. And there's still more game to play.
There certainly is. Smash, he is a very good Kaisa player. And he is showing everyone why.
Oh boy.
And he gets the kill here. That's 10.
I think Keria wanted that kill. I think Smash stole that one away.
It did seem
like
like
a nice play from Keria.
Bit of a steal.
Now,
this is how Padak died earlier. I mean,
you analyze this one, Wolf.
Well, Owner didn't have ult, but he didn't care that it was missing, and he had a lot of friends and does a lot of damage. This year, look at the minimap. Doran is like, Faker is up there fighting people. Otacon, by the way. Look at where the rest of KT is. They're in their base. They're lucky to have Hextech gates to get to Otacon as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to analyze this play here, whatever. BDD, good move there, but the big prize that they get is this huge objective on the other side of the map, which gives them then the withdraws that they can then use to push their advantage further. As this Rumble equalizer is what I was talking about, how you could use it kind of defensively, but it's just not enough. T1 are too big to fail, and especially Smash, man. I mean, yeah, I was like, are we really gonna do it to him again?
We had the Zekali 15 kill game the other day. Can we get Smash up to that number?
I think it's going to be hard pressed to get 15 at this point, though. The base is about to fall apart. Let's see if he could do it. I mean,
that's really the only thing I'm curious about.
What if he gets a penta and ties Zeka and then the game ends? That'd be cool.
That could happen.
It's unlikely, but I mean, I won't count him out.
It would require KT to fight them. I think that's the last thing they want to do, but they're going to be forced to as this kill does go to Smash. Okay, there you go. There's the one. We'll see how many more he can get as Peter goes into his ult. Keria is tanky enough, just barely, with the Galio. Nice charm here from Faker. Follow up comes in from Flash, or from Smash, rather. Oh no, Owner stole one away. But it's all right. The Penta is denied, and Smash will get up to 13. And Peter says, well, do I do I go in or do I just go to the base? He's going to try his best because he's Peter. It's another kill over to Smash. 14 in his first game back. That's 23-3. T1 will absolutely just destroy KT. It was not close, not for a millisecond.
Yeah, not even a little bit. We know Peter's not a KDA Ken. He wanted,
KDA Kenneth?
Yeah, KDA Kenneth. You know, Ken's short for it, of course. But
Yeah.
Man, we've had so many series with KT being the underdog against T1 in the telecom war, and they have that surprise moment, some KT magic, like their namesake, the Magic Ends. You know, they had some moments there. This feels like it is not going to be one of those days, Valdez. This feels like this might just be arguably the most one-sided series we see so far in a week and a half of LCK 2025. You can see the T1's leaving the booth pretty early. I don't think the coaching staff has too much to add. Whereas Score here, he's seen his own share of telecom wars on KT roster, and he's got a lot of thoughts here.
Yeah.
BDD was the only one with a gold lead. It went away fast. It's the only one who's able to do damage on this Corki, but I think the real issue here was committing to that Herald fight before those two items were online. I think they obviously were at a deficit. The game was looking rough, and we can forgive KT for a lot of things, but that one, I think, was the big issue they're probably looking at on the screen right now.
Absolutely. That was not doable at that point in time. Smash started out 3-0. He got super fed early on in the game before that even happened, that Herald fight, Wolf. So incredibly fed Kai'Sa became super fed Kai'Sa at the end. 14 kills for Smash, and that's the end of game one. We're going to take a break and have the space to break it down. We'll be right back.
업그레이드까지.
야, 코리키! 야, 길이.
나왔고.
되나, 이거? 내봐. 천천히 와. 너무 빨리 안 돼.
난 죽었어. 내가 빼고.
잠깐.
한 바퀴 이거.
살았다. 이제.
야, 꺼져. 꺼졌어. 아, 미드라인.
잠깐만요.
끝날만 안 돼, 이거?
끝나면 하겠다.
빨리 풀 있어.
네, 스펠 다 있겠다. 현준이 형, 그냥 대기 맞지?
일정이 그렇지.
야, 잠깐.
잘 가.
나이스.
Versus T1 bringing in a huge heavy hitter in Smash. And the whole team playing around Owner's Vi, as was really well explained there by our analysts, is it's the kind of thing that will hit you like 9 trucks, Valdez.
Well said, well said.
But moves and moving to this one, KT rolls to have blue side. So we'll see what they opt to ban this time around. The Varus does go over. No Sejuani here for Owner. See if the Gwen gets banned here by T1. It's like Owner shook his head no, but...
It was a very slow shake. I don't know if it was actually a no.
Yeah, no, he wasn't responding to me. He was answering something else, and the Gwen does in fact get banned.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. Obviously, with the Rumble being Fearless banned as one of the only real answers to the Gwen. Could have maybe potentially played Jace, but...
Yeah, it could have waited, you know, see if the Jace ban comes out and then ban Gwen third, but you're kind of leaving yourself open if you don't ban the right thing after that. The Jace will get banned, so we're digging a little bit deeper into our top lane duels.
T1 think Nefiri is an issue? No. They'd rather stop BDD. Interesting that both mid laners who are so known for their Azir had banned against them.
Talia, though, left up this game.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, T1 can also draft to not go full dive. And if, you know, BDD does get Talia, won't be in the end of the world at that time. But you still have a great Talia player.
Pretty bold to just first pick Ashe here. I mean, it says a lot about KT's faith in this new player coming into their roster in his second game of the year for it. He played for them during Kespa Cup, but here in the LCK, it's his first time this year, and hasn't been a ton of synergy built up just yet to just lock that one in against the powerhouse, who is a pretty known quantity, I'd say, at this point with Smash. Doran will get his hands on the Ambessa. We might see a jungle pick to come through here for Owner, unless they want to try to get the bottom duo locked up right now, which it looks like is going to be the case, as Smash hovering between the Jhin, which we did see Guma have success on against Genji, and the Misfortune, which is one of the most lane-dominant champions right now and has a lot of combo potential. Alistar is Fearless banned,
yeah,
and Rel is available.
So do you play Ashe Rel, or do you just say, okay, Keria, you get to play Rel this game, and we'll have an answer for it after the next set of bans?
Renekton counter pick here again for casting. It's been a pick I've watched him play in the past. I think he's got a good mastery of the champion. It is a matchup into Doran after all, where, you know, if Doran makes a mistake, you know, you might be able to even get further ahead there. But putting their faith in both casting and Paddock with this draft early on, as BDD will get his hands on the Talia that has been untouched otherwise in this draft, knowing that Rel is likely to come through, and they don't have an Alistar, as I don't think it's real. Yeah, no, it's not real.
Because it's like, oh, man. Not Fiddlesticks? Thought I was Canyon there for a second.
So I imagine that the Rel will get locked in here because it's just so obvious, but if Faker wants a pick that he feels is going to be banned, a counter pick to the Talia, he might grab it, but I just don't really, nothing really stands out. I did not expect Blitzcrank, however. Nor did I expect the Victor priority to be this high, although Faker does have a ton of games of Victor played across his career, and it has been targeted against him a lot. Might just be that Faker is playing this a ton in scrims. It's a very safe pick, but the Rel just felt so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of circles, wombo combo setup, it is great.
Now, the other thing is you have to consider, as I'm sure you were kind of alluding to there, it's great for the fights, but Ashe has so many champs that can push hard and control the lane with that Rel isn't going to feel good into, like Braum, which they ban. So perhaps just trying to get counterpicked for Keria so they can get out of the lane is better. Or maybe he just still ends up getting Rel later on, and it doesn't necessarily matter. But I think that KT will likely ban it. They take away the Poppy first, which is a decent pick in terms of controlling objectives. Not necessarily one that's strong into Ashe, but just as strong in general.
Yeah. You can also, I mean, we saw Keria has a lot in his pool. He doesn't have to play Rel. There are a lot of other champions. He can play Nautilus. There's so much setup, and you can't ban away all of Keria's champion pool. In fact, they're going to ban the Rel. They say we had no intention of playing the Rel. Stop mentioning
it
her.
Almost just feels like an insult. Were you guys considering picking this away? I had no intention of setting up combos for my MF for Smash. That was never the plan.
Yeah.
And they were like, now they're probably like, damn, we were going to ban Rel. Okay, well...
You know what's really good in Rel is Talia and Ashe, potentially.
I mean, I do like this Nidalee ban, considering the prio that can be set up here in lanes.
That would be support Camille.
Support Camille, indeed.
Or jungle, but that's not really a thing.
I think Pantheon ends up being a little bit safer in this situation. And he hovered it a lot last game, didn't opt into it, and instead they're just going to give Owner Nocturne with no Orianna. Pretty Owner thing to do. He loves to play this champ. He was playing it before anybody else. He was playing it when it wasn't meta. And it's great for controlling team fights. And when you turn the lights off, it becomes really difficult to get on backline targets, as the Renekton, for example, to set up the chain CC potential that BDD is looking to do with this Talia. So a lot of disruption. And we'll see our second Viego of the day here. Has a strong synergy with Talia. Final pick here, just going to be a Leona?
The Cuzlassic.
Yeah, Cuzlassic for sure.
Yeah.
A classic with two Z's.
Yeah. Oh, not the Elise, please.
Not
Not the blind
this
Elise.
This is really greedy.
Not today.
Really risky. What's Keria cooking? Is he cooking at all? Or is he just going to play Bard of Nautilus? Or Rakan into Leona? Man, Keria is actually just feeling himself today, isn't he?
Yeah.
He really is just...
I don't mind the Pantheon either.
I think the Bard feels the best for this comp next to the Pantheon. Like, the Pantheon is so basic, it's so obvious, it's so easy. It sets everything up for you.
Yeah.
But this comp from T1, regardless of what he picks, is going to play Rakan into Leona.
Sure.
Into Leona Ashe. I feel like the comp for KT Rolster is a strong meta comp, you know? And they even got the Leona into the Rakan. It's BDD's Talia. It's a tried and true. We got the Renekton counter pick for the Ambessa. It almost feels like KT got a red side comp where they have all the answers. On T1, you have kind of this mishmash of champs that doesn't necessarily synergize perfectly, but you have backline access with the Ambessa, with the Nocturne, and you have tons of damage with this Victor that's going to scale up later on. You don't have the greatest setup necessarily for the Misfortune ult, but you know, she can be quite lane dominant anyways and take over the game. So there are tools here for T1, but if I took nameplates off, I definitely vote KT here in terms of draft, but with the performance we saw from them in game 1, I'm not ready to say that draft advantages alone are going to be enough to bring this to 3.
Adding in the 14-0 on 5 score line that we saw from Smash in game 1, congratulating him on his debut, which is funny because we've seen a lot of Smash already, but that wasn't a debut in the LCK, which this one technically is. We'll see how his MF looks up against the Ashe and the Leona. At least the Leona will be very good into the MF ult, but certainly a lot of threats for that Ashe. The Rakan, the Nocturne, and the Ambessa all teaming up with some long-range ultimates to follow up. It's going to be big. Let's jump into game number 2.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right, game number 1. Not sure what happened to the minimap. Yeah, okay, there you go. Yep. Press the minimap button.
That was
Nicely
the minimap
done.
toggle. He clicked it, and it came back.
Good job, Mr. Strong.
There you go. You said game number 1, by the way, which, to be fair, yeah, to be fair,
that's weird.
It feels like it is the beginning of the series, right? After what happened in game 1 wasn't real and wasn't a game, as the spacers put it.
Maybe I was thinking about game 1 because I saw the Smash scoreline.
Yeah,
it's possible.
I think all KT fans are trying not to think about game 1 right now.
Yeah.
Trying to think about game 2, trying to think about this pretty well-crafted draft that has a lot of single target CC, you know, and blow-up potential. If, you know, Leona hits a Solar Flare, Zenith Blade, there's a Talia flip back, and then that target dies, and then Viego takes over. You know, you could front-to-back team fights that way. through the extra damage that Viego's going to put off as you kind of chain your way through. He feels like a comp that has a great identity as Peter goes in, level 1.
Yeah. Gonna get the heal out of Keria already. Peter does take a bunch of damage, but that's fine, just level 1. Smash was trying to aggressively trade, as was Keria, into their opponents. And now it just feels like KT have the push on this wave. So probably going to hit level 2 here first.
Big follow-up potential with this Rakan and team fights to the setup with the Ambessa and the Nocturne. It's very difficult to outplay a flanking Rakan when you can't see. So let's see what Keria can get done later on. Obviously in the lane here, level 2 disadvantage, and playing into the Leona, which is a pretty common counter to the Rakan. Gonna have some challenges to face to overcome in the laning phase. And this means the pick of the Rakan kind of hurts some of the early laning power of the MF that you would normally otherwise want in a lot of matchups. Ashe is also just very strong in lane and very annoying to deal with all sorts of different supports. As this counter pick of the Renekton is showcasing some of its power in the top lane as well. Like I said in the draft, it feels like KT got a lot of answers in this composition, even though they're on blue side. Keria is giggling. Smash is like, hold on, like, can you just let me like kill these minions before you do anything crazy? Keria's laughing.
Yeah, the thing about the Rakan is that he has this ability, Gleaming Quill, where if you just hit it, you're just full health, it feels like, right? Great peel potential if Peter is the one that starts off the fight, which we do see there. As now making it rain on top of this bottom lane. Keria does take a bunch of damage, but Smash very healthy. And already it feels like Smash and Keria are getting ahead on this 2v2.
I mean, okay, hold up.
Oh, the flash on in, but Peter in a bit of trouble. He will go down. Pretty straightforward. There goes Potok as well. Those throw in the barrier, but it's not quite enough. And that is a couple of kills going the way of T1.
And I was going to mention it right before that second exchange. I was like, maybe they really feel like with the barrier advantage over Cleanse, they have enough. Once Ashe starts to stack up the Q and do some serious damage, but they simply did not, Valdez. And the health advantage, because of the Gleaming Quill before the first exchange, was why, as you were like literally explaining, why it's so hard to actually do anything after that, because you're just at a health deficit, because you don't have the same sustain. You don't have a heal in your lane. Keria used his to help keep them healthy.
Yeah.
As over here, maybe a solo kill? No.
Doran's going in. He's got Keria nearby. And Keria here on the swap. Thinking about going in. There he goes, but Smash a little bit behind. So just going to heal up a little bit of the minion damage.
Yeah, Casting has TP, but Potok is still in the bottom lane. Not entirely sure how they're going to play this now. He needs to clear this wave as fast as possible if they're going to swap the Renekton back. But there's some extra time now where Casting is healing up, grabs a longsword, and just head eventually to the bottom lane. Was heading mid for a moment. Looks like some indecision potentially on the call as to where he's going to go. As going back to this, like, they're at full health. So trying to aggressively go in here is quite challenging to win a trade on.
Yeah, that's the first mistake.
And then after that, like, Potok does a lot of damage to Keria, but again, it's not enough to actually have kill pressure. Keria steps back, and he has barrier, but that's not enough to win you this fight. That's just a small shield.
Here's mistake number 2.
By the way, Faker in live in trouble.
Wait for it.
Yeah,
Mistake number 2.
I mean, he has just no health, and Potok can't get it done with barrier alone. That was the thought process, but it just wasn't correct.
There's not a lot said between the two.
No,
I mean, it's pretty straightforward, I think, for Smash and Keria.
I think Keria just walked into today's series being like, it's going to be the freest 2v2 of my life, you know? Like, I mean, just based on some of the decisions he's made this series, the constant laughs, you know, when, like, for example, they didn't ban the Galio, and then he just played Gragas, and
it's like happy gaming the way it was meant to be played.
Yes.
You know, outside, you're not actually inting while happy gaming. You're just winning while happy gaming. You're laughing a bunch. You're having a great time. You know, you're the much favored duo and team.
I mean, it's just
you're happy.
It's also, as much as, you know, I feel like obviously KT Rolster as a team, outside of that Rogue 2023 year, which I still think about constantly, has not really been close to T1. There's still a rivalry to be had here, right? I think Keria is enjoying the absolute bopping he's getting over KT this time. Remember, There was that home ground match that did not go as well for T1 as they were hoping for it to. You know, that's like the T1 event. And so now he gets to have a little bit of revenge over KT Rolster, as KT are just four-manning topside here and taking away all of these plates. Like, this is quite a bizarre move here. It's very expensive. Let's see if they can turn it into something more, because I think plates alone isn't going to be worth.
I mean, they really want to take down Doran before anything happens. Doran is going to have to flash if he wants to get away. He's still not going to get away, though. That's already a kill going the way of KT. And now T1 trying to force this fight. Maybe a little bit of happy gaming does come in after I mention it. KT, nice setup here. All 5 members in the top lane. And they do punish T1 for trying to make something of it.
Cuz looking for more.
Well,
gotta heal. And, I mean, they could potentially redive this, but those are 3 half-health ranged minions, so. Smash is also trying to race against this turret down here. Bottom side was doing a lot of damage and picked up a lot of plate gold solo. So you can see he's actually 850 gold ahead, even though, you know, KT are really putting the pressure on here. A lot of split experience, obviously, and the plates being split amongst so many members means it's not necessarily valuable gold. That's why I said they really need to get something more, and they do end up grabbing Doran here. And T1 commit to the fight, which ends up backfiring in a big way. Like, Owner goes into the back line, but alone doesn't quite have the damage. Faker can't join him, so he doesn't have enough damage to kill the Renekton, and he has to just kind of walk away. So, sad moment there. I like the style at which KT were like, okay, we have to force something here. They heavily commit, and then they double and triple down on it, because if they don't get anything more than just those plates, I really feel like Smash is like, well, thank you very much. He still is individually, but at least they were able to turn that into something more topside, because as you can see here, he's 10 CS up, got all that plate gold, all of that XP. He's like half a level ahead of Paddock right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not hyper carry territory with the MF, champion-wise, but you're still happy to give a lot of farm over to Smash. He's casting now in a bit of trouble here. He's going to get charmed and knocked up. Smash does not have his ult. He used it on the wave. Will they regret that decision? No is the answer. Very nicely juggled there. Everybody takes a bunch of damage, but it's still a kill. And it's handed over, importantly, to the one guy we want to give gold, who is Smash.
Yeah, he's the one who was able to pick up the last hit there on poor old casting. And down he goes. As over here is top turret, it's a race for first brick. I think KT got it, and they will. So it's another feat of strength. Well, the first, of course, for them, as Beats of Warfare did go to T1. So still a race there. And, okay. Wow.
This little combo, I mean, Tilly at this point doesn't have too much damage. Faker has even less with his mana crystal. Oh, Carrion might be in a bit of trouble here. He is recon though with
casting,
flash,
no flash either to follow up on that, unfortunately.
Thought it would last longer, but
yeah. I was thinking about the crystal arrow though when Faker was caught there in mid. It would have been a pretty nice angle actually. Had Paddock had the wherewithal, maybe he could have tried to catch Faker there and turn that into a BDD play in the mid lane. Perhaps BDD was calling for it, and then he was like, well, I'll use it somewhere else. And didn't quite work out, but yeah, I think that might have been the better choice. But again, never a guarantee.
Smash already has BT, so he's just going to go mid. 10 minutes into the game.
BT on Misfortune means that even when you get hit by a volley, you still got a shield, and you're going to assert your dominance in mid lane.
Okay, well,
here we go. This is an angle.
Yeah, they're trying to force here on an Owner who is just going to try to flash away, but it's very difficult to get away from this comp. The follow-up is huge, and KT prove it once again as BDD got over and picks up the kill. So should be a bunch of grubs once again going over to KT.
Yeah, Faker is in the bottom lane, had teleport, but really tough to react to a play like that. And in Owner's defense, he has Spell Shield, so in his mind, he feels pretty safe in this scenario, but unfortunately, that's only going to shield one CC, one spell, and the follow-up was there from KT, multiple forms of CC to lock him down and take him out. So another great proactive play here from KT, down on gold, but have found some big successes, some big wins here. BDD, once again, 600 gold up, but this time, he's got a friend. and Cuz, which is
Yeah.
the only other player who's usually had a little bit of a cold lead when we look at some of these KT games this year. But very good in terms of, you know, what it means for KT. 6 grubs for a side laning Renekton, potentially, and anyone who gets their hands on a turret. I mean, the whole team will take that mid turret out very fast when they get control later on, if they get control later on. The second dragon would give a 2 Drake lead to T1 if they take it. They are getting grouped up right now. Owner does not have his paranoia nor his flash. Oh, T1 kind of have pseudo control, but aren't necessarily looking to grab this just yet. And KT is going to wrestle some of that prio away.
And they're going to ult in on a Paddock as Smash just has to use his cleanse. Might have to flash out of this one with BDD making his way over. And there it is, allows Carrier to follow up. As yeah, they were really trying to play around Smash's priority, but as a team, KT, it feels like, are more well-rounded and they have more members there. Owner is just going to start up the Drake, though?
Yeah.
And KT are not going to even look at it.
Yeah, KT, they got a small win there, but Faker's still just chilling in the bottom lane, and they weren't able to collapse on or take out that dragon, as you say. Be happy getting both of Smash's summoners on this immobile misfortune, but I think wanted a bigger prize, as this is going to be another Ocean Soul. But T1 with the 2 Drake lead feeling very happy with how that exchange went. Assuming there's no punish on the Smash again. And, you know, it's a bit of a slower game here, but because a little trickery.
Yeah.
Bit of a slower game here, but it's going to come down to, I mean, the game is not won or lost here with these comps, and with the lead that T1 has, it's as small as it is. It's going to come down to some of these later team fights. And I do think that KT's best way to win this game is making plays like what they've done so far, where they just lock down a single target and pile on them, and then Cuz does some of the heavy lifting while, you know, the Ashe just continues to layer the damage in. Same with BDD.
Yeah. I mean, that should be the way they play out this composition, and I think they've done a great job of putting themselves into a spot where they can actually play against T1. Game 1 wasn't real, as we've mentioned many times. That draft gap was gigantic, and the play gap was also huge. The decision-making from KT wasn't great. They've calmed down a bit here. They're only taking fights that they know they can win. They haven't gone for any unnecessary objectives just yet, and we'll see what happens when that Rift Herald does spawn. But still, I think KT, even, you know, if they get a pick before the Rift Herald, then you've got an angle to actually go for those objectives. So I don't mind their spot right now. So far, we haven't seen a lot of value from, you know, individual parts of T1's comp. We haven't seen the Nocturne get much done here. Owner just getting killed the one time, just kind of farming.
I mean, it's like what I said in draft. Frankly, this draft doesn't have a ton of known synergy. Like, this is not a comp, unlike KT's, that's super basic in what it does. Like, it doesn't have, it's not a bad
You're gonna
draft.
say super based.
It is, I mean, honestly, picking Rakan into Leona, that was pretty based from the area. It was pretty based. And laughing while you do it, and then laughing when the Leona goes in and you win the 2v2 anyways.
Yeah.
Pretty base. But yeah, otherwise, in terms of how this comp works in 5v5 fights, it's very tricky, and it's also not simple, because while there's a lot of power in each individual part, they all have to work together well. Whereas for KT, hit CC again, champion die, vehicle transform. That's it. I mean,
Thanks
that's
for
as simple
spelling
as
it out for me, Wolf. You know, I wasn't 100% sure.
No, I mean, I knew you knew, and I know T1 knows. But I think I might have to do a longer caveman speech for the T1 comp. Maybe Chronicle have that one prepared on the space with some non-conjugated verbs. It's a bit of a lull state here. 2,000 gold, though, generated by T1. Faker spent so much time in sides, even though it was significantly further behind earlier on. Now that deficit's only 150 here between him and BDD. Has a 10 CS advantage. And again, we're just waiting for team fights. And for T1, you have to be very careful about how you approach something like this Herald fight without vision. There's a control ward in the pit. They have scuttle control. And if you just walk in one by one, then the explanation I just gave will happen in real time.
Yeah.
And I think T1 just know this is not a winnable fight without prio, without vision. They just let it go. I think a wise choice.
Yeah. No real reason to force it. I mean, they know they're not ahead enough to get in there without vision advantage, without vision control at all, really. I mean, they had some wards around, but... And now they're getting control as their team moves in to clear out vision. But, yeah, at that time, they weren't exactly set up. They have the first couple of Drakes. Unfortunately, they did roll the Ocean Soul, which isn't the best, especially for their comp, which doesn't have a lot of tankiness, have a lot of high health bars even. So...
I mean, it's okay for Ambessa, you know?
It's not bad, but definitely would have loved to double roll Hex Tech. That would have been nice.
BDD does not have the Andres, but he still hurts good old Doran. And the game slows down once more as T1 weren't going to opt into a bad fight. BDD can't kill Doran. It's a bit quiet, but T1 have Prio. They have 3 wards to the left of the Dragon Pit, 1 in the Tri-Brush beneath, and then 2 in the entry points for Cuz to potentially get in, try to look for a steal. He's got Flash and Heartbreaker. So, kind of covering all their angles, as that's an unfortunate miss for Peter.
Yeah, Cuz is right there. He's decently fed, 1,000 gold ahead of Owner right now.
Both top laners have teleport.
Peter's gonna go in. Owner just gonna flash away.
Yeah, scared of that follow-up from BDD.
Yeah. Little arrow into Faker, but he doesn't seem to care. He's got that big stun field right in the choke. KT do have control of the mid lane, and they have the Rift Herald, so T1 have to move over and stop this push.
That might be enough to secure them Dragon. They want to heavily commit to something after this Herald Crash instead. T1 playing so respectfully, backing up though. Faker may get caught.
He's just stuck here in the bush. He's gonna have to flash, and not even the disengage cone is gonna help him as BDD sits him down.
What a shove. Absolutely insane predict from BDD.
Yeah.
Or just a complete coincidence, but I'm going to say insane predict.
It was planned. And now, TP coming in. T1 want to fight this. They want to fight on their terms. They're going to press their buttons in the aggressive direction, this time for the first time in this game. And now they do shut down BDD, who did have Flash. That ult was not great from Smash. Is now going to get into that backline. The follow-up is there. Smash in a lot of trouble. And they are able to get the shutdown onto the AD carry of T1. That's a double kill as well. And KT beginning to gain some momentum in this game.
Doran here playing with fire. Don't know if he really wants to go in there as Carry is trying to... I don't know what that was. I don't know what he was doing over there, but I don't know if it would have gone well for him. Maybe just trying to escape there. It looked like he was trying to do something with casting, but I think he was just trying to speed his way out of there. And going back to this moment here, Faker hyper aggressive on this flank. I mean, extremely greedy, and the follow-up from BDD is instant. He places the shove behind Faker so that Faker cannot actually get out. And then this moment here for T1, I think I can get behind. You know, you have a single target you want to get. Look at the angle for Doran as well. It's a great follow-up. Unfortunately, though, after all their tools are used, and there's still a real threat in this Ashe and a ton of frontline, plus a big fed Viego, even Carrier's heroic attempt to try to stop them and peel is not going to be enough. And remember, the Misfortune ultimate as well from Smash, not great there. And once gone, it's just a Misfortune without ult. And I mean, it was a cool idea to try to look for that play, and I think they had the right tools, and like Doran was clearly prepared for the angle, but I think just misassessing like the ways in which KT win that fight with an Ashe that just can't be accessed, you know? So now it's an even game in terms of gold, and KT are on the board with a Dragon. Yeah. And we still know what their comp does.
It's really straightforward for them. You know, we do like the straightforwardness in the compositions. Not as straightforward, I guess, as T1's Game 1 comp, but still...
pretty close, though.
I mean, you did a caveman style, right? And that's all you needed to explain what this comp does. Meanwhile, on the side of T1, yeah, Smash got really fed, but he's MF. He's not a hyper carry. He is going to do a lot of damage, but he's not necessarily going to take over the game in the way like a Kai'Sa or a Zeri or even an Ezreal would. I think you really need Faker to be dealing a lot of magic damage in some of these fights. But right now, he's 0-2. He's behind on gold to BDD again. And he's not quite... He got caught out in the last fight as well.
Yeah.
So Smash isn't going to be able to do it alone on MF. If he was playing Zeri, sure, but he needs Faker to also do damage.
I feel like this is not a Smash-type champion because You know, you and I were joking about it in the break as Teddy played Misfortune. Misfortune is kind of like your team does all the work and you press the button.
Yeah.
It's not a skill expression champion. It wasn't designed to be one. We've talked about this a lot, whereas Smash is kind of the skill expression player from what we've seen from him so far. I mean, go back and watch that Kaisa game if you don't believe me. But yeah, again, him having all the gold means his team needs to hold KT in place for him to swing. So it would be nice if they had like a rel in this comp. They did ban it. I think KT would have banned it if they left it open. But
yeah, I mean,
it still feels like, you know, when you look at this comp, there's just not a whole lot of setup for the Misfortune. It's great into dive. You know, when you're like able to cone all the champions are running at you if the Misfortune isn't caught, but this isn't necessarily dive from KT. It's just single target blow up with an arrow, you know, with a flip back from BDD. So, you know, Misfortune isn't going to be channeling towards, you know, saving anybody. Maybe like a Viego that's running down to get that kill, but it's very tricky to pilot. And I think, you know, we said take the nameplates off, or I said, I won't put words in your mouth, but I said, like, take nameplates off. I think KT had the better draft.
No, I do agree.
I think T1 is feeling some of that right now.
I think you have to. You know, the Nocturne hasn't really achieved what you wanted it to achieve. You know, I think what they did on that Dragon, where they pressed all their buttons into BDD, that was like the best fight that T1 have had. And that was good, but the follow-up was honestly not. I mean, they couldn't really run away or anything, but they thought they could take the fight, and they got bullied by casting instead. They need to do more of that, but the farther they fall behind, the further and further they fall behind, the less of those fights we're going to see from T1.
Yeah. And it's still T1, an incredible team that has looked way better than KT throughout this year and brought Gen.G to the brink in that best-of-3 banger that we had on Sunday. So if there's a team that can get it done, the compositional deficit with the creative draft, I guess you could say here. Like
that's one way to put it.
Yeah. It could be them, but Keria will have to dash away.
We saw a Smash Cleanse. Not sure exactly why, but the disengage cone is going to help them out. I don't think he was slowed up by anything, but they did both dodge the arrow, so no big issue there.
BDD tried to go for another shove angle there, but found himself also flying with the blast cone. And now KT full prio on this Dragon. Doran has an off angle here. There is a teleport flank ward potentially for him to take as well if he wanted to do a deep flank. It's actually, in fact, going to be Faker who goes that route, though. Don't know about that.
Well, they're going to turn off the lights. They get into the back line, and one stun on the Smash is enough. He's totally zoned by a Renekton, and he has to flash away. But look at the damage right now from the Nocturne. At least they get the Ash. As now Smash tries to get in, but he just dies. As he was isolated the entire fight, they don't have an 80 carry. Cuz is going to get blown up by Faker, and they still have this Mbessa as well. T1 trying to fight this one out. It's a very close one. Faker's still full health against 3 low health bars, but he doesn't have a front line anymore. Trying to pull a Chovy here. We'll see if he can do it.
The same thing.
But
we saw Chovy do it with no health, but
yeah,
Baker's
just run away.
Yeah, he's not going to have the same opportunity this time around. And man, I mean, the flanking Victor isn't always the scariest of flank champions.
They didn't see him at least.
Also, watch in this fight, interestingly, because they couldn't see him. The lights are turned out. Smash here is on the wrong side of this fight. You pointed it out. He gets stunned, flashes over the wall. Now there's no stun, so he's like, okay, I can channel. I get something done here. But Cuz is, you know, he doesn't care. Like, he's like in stasis. He's not going to take any damage there. So your 80 carry did basically nothing, kept casting at bay. But Faker isn't able to, without really any front line here, really carry the last parts of this fight. And Victor's not a champion that can do much on a flank in terms of engage. Could have, like, closed the door there and collapsed on them if KT were kind of messing up in terms of positioning. But you know, at least he Smash channeled his ult. He was able to identify, okay, the stun from the Renekton is down. I have an angle here to just full channel until he physically kills me. But it just wasn't onto any targets, as Cuz was the only one who was arguably going to be hit, but wasn't hit. Obviously not.
Yeah.
Really. So that was just a really good play from casting. Who's at 4-0 or 4-1-2, excuse me, on this Renekton. Looking really good in this game compared to the last.
Yeah. he got very much bullied the last game. That wasn't a very fair one for him. But yeah, the MF doesn't do anything if he doesn't have if she doesn't have protection, if she's on the wrong side of the fight. And it was a very wonky engage because of all the flanking, and Smash kind of got left out to dry as both Faker and Doran were flanking. The one thing I will say is it was nice to see that T1 actually do have other threats outside of Faker as well. You know, I feel like Doran and Oner really pulled their weight in that fight.
Absolutely.
And were able to do a nice chunk of damage to really shore up the missing MF. So it's not all up to Faker.
No, and Faker is sitting on 2 items. Will, you know, do a lot of burn with this, and in longer fights too, the Blackfire Torch is so incredibly strong as you just get more and more value out of it as the fight extends, and that's what Victor wants to do, is be that AP carry.
Well, trying to punish Peter here. That's a lot into the Leona, but nobody is there just yet. You see the follow-up is coming through, though. BDD makes his way over. Cuz there as well. The charm comes in from Carrier, but no follow-up is there on a BDD. Finally, Faker will put an end to Cuz, who unfortunately got caught in the crossfire. And now T1, nice little pick. And oh, very nice max range from Doran. Gonna catch out the Talia and get the job done as T1 beginning to show what their pick comp can do as the stun comes in from Faker. Excellent position. And that is 3 kills as KT fall 1 by 1.
This is what T1 can do if you just get one angle, one moment. They can snowball that turn of events into a massive win. 3 dead on the floor here for KT. Casting absent from that fight is going to get a turret for his troubles, but T1 gets so much more. They're going to get a Baron off of this as well, easily.
Otacon? Nah.
That's a bridge too far, I suppose, but going back to this, it's all down to Peter. Channeling a recall here, gets found by Keria, and T1 jump on the opportunity. He then goes in. Imagine if BD was just a little bit closer and could have hit a massive shove there. Things could look very, very different. And Keria finally sets up Smash to channel an ultimate on a target. He is able to take out Cuz this time around with some help from Faker, and then they crush this turret.
Look at Doran's ult.
Yeah,
look at this.
Doran's ult. Ooh. It almost looked like it was he just like grabbed one extra like hair too long. Like it's almost like he was actually cheating. Yeah, that was kind of weird. But Casting never shows up after the fight is lost and doesn't show up in the middle of that fight because he just doesn't trust that KT could actually turn that one around. I think it's a wise choice. He gets the turret in exchange, but without him being there, you know, it allows T1 to try to push that advantage even further, almost taking out that inner. KT still can win this game as Smash is the target.
He's got Cleanse, but he doesn't have a splash. They're really trying desperately to take him down, and now he gets the huge ultimate onto so many that were desperately trying to dive into him, and there is the value from the MF. And the follow-up is swift from T1. KT overextend, and it's just going to be a clean, straight-up ace 29 minutes into the game as they will look to potentially end.
The words that came out of my mouth right before that happened was KT can still win this game. They can no longer win this game now, this. Because I was going to say they still have that single target blow up. They can still find targets. They can still... Smash says strut. The walking strategy.
He just walked up. He just used the wall to zone KT away from it.
Yeah. That's it. That's GG.
Yep.
And what was a very close second game at KT, played well, just comes to a crashing end.
Yeah, the crash down from the realm we did not see. And yeah, the Nexus will fall here. T1 will just have their fun. Doran gets killed right at the end, but it doesn't matter. It's still a relatively clean 2-0. I think especially game 1, but game 2, they finally figured it out. KT a couple of overextensions, and if you give one of our top teams in the LCK an inch, they will take many, many miles.
Yeah, or kilometers, depending on where you're from. You can calculate it.
Yeah.
So I look at this series as we didn't learn too much, right? Pretty weak performance from KT in game 1. Product got crushed. Oner took over the game with Smash. Smash ends up getting like 14 kills, and it's a hopeless affair. In game 2, T1's comp was weird, but they were the better team, which we already expected, and it was interesting to see how KT played that one out and how simple their composition was. But I feel like this is not even a series where you could say, well, at least Product's an upgrade, at least Cast. I feel like you can't walk away with those conclusions from today.
Yeah.
And you can't come away with any conclusions about Smash and Guma, if I'm totally frank. I know everyone will anyways, and you guys will, you know, tweet angrily, and I probably should.
You do you. I mean, that's what they're going to do anyway.
Probably shouldn't open my mentions after saying all this, but you know, I think for T1, it was a good opportunity, a good matchup to try Smash out. Give him his first telecom war, you know. He hasn't had one of those just yet.
Yeah.
Guma and his brother have had quite a few amongst the two of them
That's
over their
true.
careers.
Very, very many between the two of them. Smash definitely having a weaker early part of this game. Eventually figured it out, you know. The MF is not necessarily as in his wheelhouse as some of the other picks. So just another discussion point for all you guys out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carriot giggling the entire time, even when he was on camera, just having a little giggle the entire time today. So he's having a lot of fun. Everybody else just doing their job today. It was pretty straightforward, as you said. Not really a lot learned. I mean, the Smash carry at bottom lane, strong into Peter, who makes double back-to-back mistakes. Really struggled in that early game matchup. T1, this was the one fight that I liked from them before they eventually went on to have more fights.
It's like
more like this.
Isn't it crazy how the end of this game comes down to Peter recalls in a risky spot, decides to stop his recall and hit a recon. And like, that's it. That's all it takes. T1 wins the game.
Yeah.
You know, like that's, there are other factors involved here, obviously, like the Renekton being missing and stuff, but T1 are just constantly able to see these angles. We'll eventually get that fight in a moment here, but like T1 know how to end games. They have Faker, who's played more games than anybody. 1,001.
True.
Plus all of his international performances, of which he has many and many titles. But it's like this moment here where this is it. It's like Peter is like, I hit that, and then KT don't know. They have to sacrifice him and leave. They opt into the fight. BDD's just a few pixels too far away to follow up, to get a shove. Keria has this set up for Smash, and it's like, in just the blink of an eye, it's over. The game is done. And T1, you said, will take many miles with just an inch. And that's why when you look at the draft and you go, I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure how this comp is going to work necessarily. It's got some good angles, but it's not standard. You just trust that the coordination is going to be there, regardless of what they're playing. Smash walking.
Yeah, good choice to go north here, right? Because if he goes south, there's every member of KT. But instead, he just isolates himself against the Taliyah, and he wins that fight, and everybody's overextended.
Absolute dominance here in these final moments. A pretty, what were you going to say about this?
Oh, he just said, end it.
Oh, end it, yeah.
He goes figures like, end it.
I was going to say a pretty, I feel like the circumstances surrounding today, the trucks, the drama, the controversy, overshadowed what ended up being a very basic and straightforward T1 absolute dominant 2-0. Sure, game 2, a little rough around the edges, but the way the game ended makes you just feel like, did KT really have a chance? You know, one small mistake and it's all over. Cuz really doing a lot of heavy lifting in this game, actually out-damaging this Taliyah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that KT are showing some signs of life, even with a roster that is very much in flux, changing. It feels like every single matchup they have. And they were still at least able to win this early game against T1, so I think big props to them. Again, the game of League of Legends doesn't end from the early game. They needed to be a bit cleaner. They needed to make better decisions in the mid-game, and they weren't able to. And, you know, you put T1 in this position, Humble Life Esports, DK, Gen.G, all those 4 top teams, they probably would have done the same. Take those miles and just end you. And that's exactly what T1 did here.
You know, do you think, maybe I should have said Ox should have been the guy to make the caveman speech. You know, I wonder if he's got it ready. Because he had that really nice alliteration. Degon could do it. Keria did it in terms of player of the match. He was very cheeky throughout the series in terms of giggling all the time. Pick the Recon for Leona, ban the Rel, played Gragas support, and really helped set up his AD carry to success. I voted for Owner. I actually thought that in Game 1, he was incredibly consistent, and in Game 2, it felt like, to me, all 5 players had a role to play. There wasn't a big standout, so I just went back to his Game 1 performance where he made Smash big. But I think Kerry is a wise vote. Could have maybe even made the argument for Doran here. I wouldn't be shocked if he's got a vote. Stray vote in there.
Stray little, like, KR cast vote, you know, somebody trying to be a hipster.
What do the fans vote for on the day like today? Well, I'm looking forward to finding out.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's AD carry. I think that it's either owner or carry realistically, but the fans will vote how they want. So yeah, pretty straightforward 2-0, and I think T1 are looking quite good. The fact that they do have both Smash and Guma in their arsenal, and they took Gen G to a very close series, almost won it, could have won it. They are going to be a top team here at the LCK. It's not a big surprise, and I'm just looking forward to seeing more developments here for this roster.
Indeed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Keria has to say. Might have some insights on what it's like to play with 2 different AD carries throughout this year.
He's giggling the whole time.
He might be giggling a little bit. It's certainly possible, but I'm sure he's got some thoughts on Gragas support, and maybe he has some ideas about the draft. Maybe they'll ask him why he banned Rel.
Yeah.
And still then say, he's like, no, Rakan can set up a MF, like, watch me do it.
Yeah,
you know?
he did. The one time. It was good. Yeah, I wonder if they'll ask, you know, what's the difference between playing with Guma, what's the difference between playing with Smash? Ask some of the hard questions. But, guys, we do have the interview ready, so I'm going to hand it over to Deer for the translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Deer for the POM interview translation, joined by Keria on the side of T1, who just secured a 2-0 victory against KT. What a refreshing 2-0 win! How do you feel? First of all, we were able to secure a 2-0 victory with a clean performance, which makes me pretty happy. This is your second POM, so you must be so proud as a support. You know, after I became POM from POG, I felt like it would be really hard to get POMs as a support, but I'm really glad that I've been able to sort of take these POMs so far. And today was Smash's LCK debut match. What did you think of your synergy with him? Since I was able to play alongside him in the LCK Cup, and I had always watched him play, I think right now we're just working on building up that teamwork and synergy and chemistry with him. And in Game 2, and Game 1, your Gragas had such an amazing highlight. So what do you think of Gragas support lately? I think Gragas isn't an easy pick to just whip out anytime, but I feel like there are a lot of moments where you can actually utilize him as long as you have good mastery with, and I think that's what really acted well in Game 1. There are a lot of moments that actually really required some proficiency with him. And do you normally make shot calls in the game? No, I think just from Game 2, I tried to communicate about how we are supposed to play before the game. And I think I just do try to be proactive regarding making shot calls and then engaging. So I think that's just a discussion that we actually always try to focus on having before we go into the game. And today, yet another historic milestone was made. Faker's all-time 1,000 LCK games. Would you like to congratulate him? You know, so much respect to him, and I really want to reach that kind of milestone myself personally as well. Oh, there he is. Looks like Faker is watching from the analyst desk. Congratulations, Faker. You know, I hope that we're able to play more games in the future and we can stack more LCK games in our milestone. You know, yeah, this is such an honorable moment. And lastly, this Saturday showdown, you will face Hana Life Esports. So what mindset will you practice with? Well, Hana Life Esports is an opponent that, due to my terrible mistakes, I wasn't able to showcase my full potential. We actually lost that match. So I hope that we're able to win next time around. And that's the end of the interview with Keria, and back to the space. Thank you.